Hey guys, welcome back to another Friday/Saturday episode of the Loan Officer Life, Hustle, Heart, and Homeownership. I'm joined by Frazier, the other one named superstar.
The artist formerly known as Madonna.
Yeah. He clearly can't spell either. As you can see, he forgot a few letters in his hat.
Yeah, I'm just gonna own it.
Hey, dude, how are you?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Thanks for having me on the LOL. I'm digging it, man.
So we were doing some reminiscing before we hit record in the green room, as they say. This is episode 147, which is crazy.
Mm-hmm.
I only started doing this podcast thing because you got me into it through some other
I always
deal
get blamed for that. You know what? It's kind of, now that you're bringing that up, I know we talked about before, but like Fabi and like other guys will be like, Frazier's the one that got me into saying the pot. So like they're still doing it. So it's like, like,
well, no,
hey, now it's a choice. Now it's a choice.
It is. Yeah. It 147 episodes later, right?
Yeah.
It's not insignificant. It's easy. It's literally one of the easiest things I do.
Yep.
Because I'm talking to people that I truly either like, know, and trust,
mm-hmm.
or people that I've not yet gotten the chance to know, and
mm-hmm.
I want to know them. And these conversations are like I just recorded with Natalie Overturf from CMG.
Oh, okay.
She and I've never ever had a conversation until we got in the StreamYard room.
Nice.
And that's somebody I want to know more about, right? So
yeah.
I'll thank you for roping me in 3-4 years ago, whenever it was. But seriously, it's put me on a screen with people I probably wouldn't have otherwise had a chance to talk with. And it's led to some pretty cool stuff. And as a loan officer, because this is a loan officer podcast,
mm-hmm.
if you're not sold on doing something like a podcast, I would seriously look into it. And even if it's just a community-based type thing, because nobody says no when you ask them to come on your podcast.
Oh, totally.
It's crazy.
Yeah. Even though, to be in all fairness, I did say no to you, and it's after your fourth email and text message, was like, all right, Brian, I'll come.
Well, I just went to your people, and they
he's coming on, right? Yeah.
So you're like, you are the Alec Baldwin of my podcast. You're my most frequent returning guest, so thank you for that.
Oh, well, thank you for having me on. Hopefully I fare better than Alec has on other instances.
Yeah, it's he's had some interesting things.
Less controversial, kind of.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Kind of.
So there's a ton of stuff going on. We could go down a bunch of different paths.
Yep.
But you launched a daily form of a podcast, Growth Notes.
Yep.
Which I'm a subscriber. I think I was one of the first subscribers. Love it. Listen to it every day. And the word growth, I've now heard you say it a lot, and you're saying it in replacement of another word typically.
Yep.
And so I think a lot about, I've always thought of you as like this master marketer, but my mindset is shifting. I actually look at you more as a growth advisor, growth coach.
Yep.
And again, I've heard you talk about, growth more than marketing, and maybe we can just riff on that for a bit, because I think people are stuck and they need to get unstuck.
Yeah. Yeah. So, there used to be like a term, and obviously loan officers at scale don't really care about the, like the history of marketing, but ultimately like used to have like growth marketers. You don't really see that too much anymore. And it wasn't like, and guys, look, I'm just going to say how like I've done it. There's certain things that I've seen or haven't seen people say. So if I say something, I'm not trying to, I may have heard it somewhere. I may have just been the one that had said it, but I'm never going to be like, I coined the phrase on this or that. But, ultimately it comes down to this, is that, I believe that sales is marketing, marketing is sales, right? I think just with the way that, the internet marketing becoming more of a technologist type entry than and sales, becoming more marketing focused. I believe like marketing is sales and sales is marketing. But generally, when I say marketing, I actually mean growth, because ultimately, what do sales and marketing? What is the purpose of sales? Growth. What is the purpose of marketing? Growth, right? There is no other purpose of marketing. There is no marketing to make your business do worse. There is no marketing to decrease sales, right? Without sales, without marketing, you don't have sales, right? And without sales, marketing is worthless, right? So that's why to me it's like it's all part of the same just this I don't say ecosystem, but it's all part of the same conversation, right? And to me it's the exact same conversation. So I prefer growth because that's what it is. And there's also like I'm a strategist, right? So strategy is a big play for me. So growth is strategy. You need to have a plan, you have a strategy. So I kind of combine all of those together. And like you mentioned, growth notes, like I started growth notes in May 1st of 2024.
Yeah.
And that was, as you remember, was delivered differently. It was a text message every single day that went to like a Notion document that had an audio file, because I didn't release it as a podcast. I released it as like something you had to subscribe to, because I wanted to, I wanted it to be I created a little friction because I wanted it to be people that actually like would care about growth. At the beginning of this year of 2025, I relaunched it as a daily and it was a daily thing back then, but now it's a daily podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcast, every major podcast channel. As of today, as of this recording, I have almost 9,000 downloads of growth notes across all the platforms. Mainly Apple Podcasts is the biggest one. And I've done it every single day. So I've done it every single day since May 20th of 2024.
7 days. 7 days a week.
7 days a week,
Every
right?
day.
It's the only daily podcast. I know Housewire has the daily podcast, but I think they only do Monday through Friday. I don't think they do Saturdays or Sundays. And I don't know if it's every day, even like I do even holidays, Christmas, New Year's Day. Like I do it every single day and haven't missed a beat. There's been some technological challenges, but I've recorded a voice note every single day. I think 3, like there has been 3 like mess ups, right, with that. And it's been recorded every single day. And I'm now on what I kind of relaunched it as a podcast, still didn't miss a beat, but now I'm, if I think about like the podcast world, I'm on episode like 165 or something like that. And I have a lot of, because I see who subscribes to it. I have some pretty legit names, and like you, of course, but like I have some pretty like some executives that you wouldn't think would subscribe to my daily thing, in the mortgage industry, entrepreneurs in real estate and stuff like that. And it's been fun. And what it is really I coach with like 8 and 9 figure people, meaning I get coached by them and that group and cohort, not me coaching them. And so that entrepreneurial journey is what I share, is basically the things that I have learned about myself and the lessons that I'm kind of deploying in my business, and hopefully helping loan officers do that. And it's crazy is the feedback that I've gotten has been great. Some loan officers say like one of those growth notes have actually convinced them to stay in the business when they were thinking about hanging it up. And so like it is great. Like that's the type of impact I want, right? And these are short. Like these aren't 30-minute. Like these sometimes they're like 2.5 minutes, 3 minutes. On average, they're like 4.5 minutes across the board. Sometimes I've done a couple long ones, like 8 or 9 minutes. But like that's what it is. And it's just my way of, because there's so much stuff out there, right? And look, not everyone's going to listen to growth notes every single day. Like they're going to, at some point, I would imagine. I know I would get sick of hearing my voice every single day. So I'd imagine a lot of them do as well. But it's just, again, to me, it's a growth thing for me as well. Cause it reinforces the lessons that I'm learning. And it's also like, it allows them to get into a room that they normally wouldn't probably pay to be into with those people, because these had nothing to do with real estate or housing. These are serious, nor would they probably respond well to that type of coaching, because these guys aren't like, touchy feely, like huggy, like, oh, that's okay, try again next time. It's more like, like average is the enemy. It's like, that's the type of coach, because that's the kick I need. Right. And coaching's really just a fit in general. But I enjoy doing them every single day. And I like the juice that I feel after I do it. And I like getting the feedback and just knowing that I've impacted and that one feedback that I got from the loan officer and the other people that like, will say like, oh, this made me cry. And like I just want to, I know I'm not going to impact the industry at scale, but I know that I'm going to impact a few people. And if it's a positive thing that, again, allows them to impact other people, then I've done my job. Right. And so I don't need, thousands and millions or hundred, whatever. I just need my tribe of people that
Yeah.
like, hey, I gear up, I listen to it every single morning, and I love it. I love it for them.
Yeah. You mentioned tribe. So like, I still remember, I don't exactly remember where we were, but I do remember literally like the first time you and I like ran into each other
Mm-hmm.
at some event. It was probably at some deal in Vegas. I don't know whose event it
Yeah.
was.
Yeah.
But what struck me, and that was 8 years ago, probably 8 or 9 years ago, because I was at
Had to
Flagstar
be. Yeah.
for
You're at
sure.
Flagstar. Yeah.
It could have been 10.
Yep.
But what struck me when I first met you was you had like this tribe already back then.
Mm-hmm.
And what I've enjoyed watching, for you over these years is how a lot of the same core that I saw kind of gravitating to you 8, 9 years ago are still there, but it's
Yep.
gotten wider and deeper. And that really wasn't going anywhere. That's more of a comment than anything, but
Well, I'm glad. That's good.
but
Yeah.
what it does is it goes back to what we talked about, marketing versus growth.
Yep.
You even back then you were talking about growth without saying that word.
Mm-hmm.
It was kind of the tactics and the strategies that you were coaching people up on.
Yep.
When I hear now in the context of this conversation, when I think about the word growth versus marketing, and I put myself in the position of a loan officer, actually it's a little bit calming to think about tactics and strategies for growth than it does for marketing. Because
Yep.
for some people, marketing might just freak them out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just the act of marketing
Yep.
is enough to freak somebody out. Everybody can understand doing things to grow, whatever you're trying to grow, right?
Yep. Yep.
And so I think that mindset shift is pretty smart by just changing words.
Yeah. Well, that's it's funny you said that, because like it's what has made me successful as a direct to consumer marketer, right? As a direct response marketer is I study, consumerisms, right? I study the human behavior. I get into like, neuroscience, neuromarketing, right? I don't really care about like our products and services in the way that other marketers do, right? Like we're not selling makeup or gym memberships or crap like that, right? It's a different world. But I care about what consumers think about, why they say yes, why they say no. And so when you said about like it just changing the words changes the mindset, that's how our brains think, right? Yeah. And so like when you're talking about like am I thinking about marketing, and then a loan officer is thinking about, I got, probably their first thought is probably like, and the people are watching now, hey, correct me if I'm wrong, but you probably thought about like having to do videos on like TikTok or posting on social media or doing like doing advertising or paying, like that's what you probably thought marketing. Maybe you thought flyers for some of you veterans out there, something like, whatever, but like
door hangers.
Yeah, door hangers, right? But you're thinking about those things, right? Or the things that I'm not creative, I'm not, tech savvy, so all the like anxieties and stuff come in. But we saw about growth when we talk about growth, that's encompasses it's a different way of looking at it, even though it's really the same. Yeah. But you're right. And that's what's interesting. And that's why I'm different. Right. When it comes to my tactics and strategies, and because I focus on different things and different conversations. And it's not that I'm out there telling all the other people that like what they're doing is wrong. What I'm saying is that on the timeline, right, that we have, those have been proven to be less and less effective year after year. And I know this because I talk to hundreds of loan officers every single week, right? It's part of my job. So like it's less effective. Doesn't mean it doesn't work completely. It just means like, hey, it worked, let's say it worked 30% of the time in 2022, it's probably now working, 18% of the time, right? In 2025, right? So that timeline at some point, it's going to down. So what I'm saying is that the stuff I talk about doesn't move away from the success of those other things. It will do the exact same thing, but it opens up all these doors of other opportunities that you're not going, that you absolutely will not get doing it kind of the, I don't want to say the old way, but just more the traditional way.
So you talked about direct to consumer. I want to shift gears a little bit.
Okay.
And for decades, when, especially in mortgage, when we hear direct to consumer, we gravitate to a couple brands, a couple logos. And typically we immediately equate that with call center, blah, 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 blah.
Yep.
Today, that's not the case. Every one of us, especially those of us that are, consumer facing loan professionals, mortgage professionals, has an opportunity to compete in the direct to consumer space.
Yeah.
And, I see a lot of what you spend time on with the loan officers that you're coaching and the people that are in your community is kind of talking about those concepts. So if I'm, let's talk about, I'm a brand new loan officer, 26 years old, deciding this is what I want to do. And where do I start if I'm brand new in this business to start to build that personal brand that gives me the opportunity to show up in front of consumers before as opposed to being referred by in the traditional sense by a realtor. So like, what's something that somebody brand new could literally start doing, their first day on the job, so to speak?
Yeah, that's a great question. And so, as a time of this recording, what you could do is buy our newly released book with me and Darren Copeland called The Green Zone Project, which is the ultimate playbook and the no BS playbook for any loan officer that wants to build a business. But I digress.
I'm out. Where do we find the book? I know it'll be in market when people are watching and listening. How am I going to find it?
Amazon. So Green Zone Project on Amazon.
Really?
Yep, it'll be on Amazon, and that's the only way that we're putting it out. So you could get it paperback and Kindle. So you'll be able to have those. We may release it to like Barnes and Noble for like the 20 people that actually still like get books from those places. But like we'll have it on there, and then you could also go to greenzoneproject.com.
Greenzoneproject.com, guys. Go to the show notes. We'll have all this information for you in there. You beat me to my punch. This is you showing me up as a podcast host, because I had that teed up as a conversation point.
Well, yeah, my bad.
No, I think it's.
I thought you were leading me there. So no, but look, I'm not. I could say there's a lot. So let me take a step back, right? So one, as far as the actions, I would say put a pause in the actions for a second. What I want you to do, as if you're a new loan officer, or even if you're a loan officer and you really haven't like conceptualized like a brand, here's the thing. And this is one of the things that kills me about our industry and our marketing sometimes is like when we jumped on, like we have all these like brand experts and brand this and brand that. What do we do? Like what we do is we overcomplicated the shit out of it, just like we do. So now when loan officers, I'm a branding expert, I'm a brand this, a brand that. Guys, here it is. So I broke it down in my accelerator, Broker Fuel, right? It's Me Inc., right? ME, like as in you, right? Me Inc. That is who you are. And I don't care if you work for the number one lender in the country. I don't care if you're the, mega broker. I don't care who you are. Whoever you are as an originator, you are the CEO of you, right? And so meaning that when an agent has a challenge, are they calling this, I'm going to date myself here, are they calling the switchboard of the main office, right? Are they calling your branch office number, even if you have a branch office number, right? No, they're calling you the loan officer. The consumer isn't going to the company like main desk, right? Unless maybe you're doing a reverse mortgage, then probably that's how they're rolling. But if you're not, right? If you're not, they're talking, you're the face of the main brand, right? Which is, CMG, right? Rate, Nexa, whoever, right? Whatever, it doesn't matter. It's you are the face, right? And so you got to think about yourself as Me Inc. You are the CEO of you, and you're also the CMO. That means the chief marketing officer. You're the CFO. You're the CSO, chief strategy officer. You're the CFO. You're the chief financial officer of Me Inc. that is where understanding the brand, that's what you need. That's the foundation, right? So who cares about like, oh, I need to be on video, I need to do this or that or whatever. You need to understand that first. And now, and I have this whole, kind of like framework laid out and in my group, but like, just to kind of give you kind of the cliff notes of that, what it comes down to is understanding that two things. One is, as a loan officer, you make your money one way and one way only, and that's by having conversations about housing and real estate, period, the end. Yeah. Right? So how do you have as many conversations about housing and real estate you can every single day, right? The second piece of that is becoming known, being recognized, right? Being someone that is seen, and there's some recognition there. And so that's what my Me Inc., right, framework, so to speak, or course that I don't like to call it a course because it's really not, but it's really just an understanding and principles of what Me Inc. is. And when you really understand that and really understand that you are the CEO, then your mindset changes, because we're talking about changing words again, right? Like, because none of you are probably out there calling yourself a CEO, but right. You are. Yeah. You absolutely are. Right. And this is nothing to take away from the bigger brands or whatnot, but they don't move without you, the originator, right? They're a great car, great tires. They're stylish, right? Good colors. They got CarPlay. Right? They got all the cool stuff, electric, but guess what? You're the engine. So they ain't going nowhere without you. And so you need to take that CEO ownership real. And when you do, you start running a business, because that's what you're doing. Now, I know some loan officers aren't entrepreneurial, right? And you're going to have a hard time in this industry building something if you're not. Just being straight up with you. But for those that, most loan officers are, right? And you're probably a little ADD, ADHD too, which is actually a superpower if you know how to harness it, especially in this industry. But when you take the moniker of being the CEO, you change your mindset, you change your actions, because this is your business that you're building, right? Because ultimately, the chances of you staying with whatever the icon or the logo is above you for your entirety of your career is next to none, right? And now some people find their home and have been there for decades, and they'll probably never leave. But for most loan officers, they're going to move around. Now, sometimes they boomerang back, right? Like, we've had people that left my company and came back. Great. Awesome. Yeah. Right. But sometimes they go around and test the waters, try new things. They feel stagnant or whatever. They get the itch. And so they move, or the company removes you, yeah. Or there's an M&A, mergers and acquisitions, or they just close up doors, right? We know a couple of, not a couple, we know quite a bit of companies that just like loan officers left Friday, they came into a locked door on Monday, right? It happens. And so like, you need to own your business. And so now that you understand that, like, what are the actions you could take? And it's like, what do you do to have conversations, right? You need to talk to people, right? So that's whether it's email, calling, just having conversations with people in the store. Like I tell these stories all the time when I'm in an Uber and I talk to the Uber drivers and whatnot, and they talk, hey, what do you do? I say, oh, I do coaching and consulting in the mortgage industry and da-da-da-da. And there's 99.9% of the time that Uber driver's like, oh, I'm thinking about this, or I used to be a broker or whatever, right? Like, used to be in real estate, or I used to do this, or I'm thinking about doing that. I've referred loans to people from Uber drivers, right? And if I'm not even an originator, so right. If I'm doing this stuff all over the place, why can't you be doing this stuff? And you should be doing it more than me. And so that's what you need to start like, how do I have conversations? How do I meet people? And you need to, and then there's like frameworks, like, a lot of people have call reluctance and all these other things that you could power through all of those things and learn, tools and stuff like that. But you just have to go out and have conversations. Now, what I will tell you is kind of like, we recently pivoted in my group where I was, I had a focus of more of like a holistic view of like growth and marketing and strategy. And that's not a bad thing. But honestly, like if I'm here, if I look at my purpose is solving problems and helping people, period. Like, that's my purpose. If I'm to look at like, how am I going to make the deepest impact with originators today, then I can't go with the McNugget stuff that loan officers want to hear, even though like it's a detriment to my business, because that's what's going to attract them, is stuff that they want and need, and not really need, but want. But I'm not going to get rid of that. But our core focus right now, and for the future is because of the advent of AI and search and the changing of what SEO used to be. SEO is not dead, but the tactics and the foundation, the principles of SEO are absolutely dead.
Right.
And so how do I prepare loan officers to have success now and in the future with that purpose of solving problems and helping people, right? Driving me, plus understanding the ultimate goal for me is I want every originator to build a business that builds a sustainable pipeline where they attract and not chase.
Yes.
And so with that, that's blogging, that's YouTube, and there's other marketing and strategies. It's all like, it's not just like that simple. There's a lot of variables. So if I'm telling you, if I'm an originator's coming to me, they're new, first I'm giving that whole me Inc. conversation and whatnot, right? Then I'm saying like, what you need to do is you need to be an expert in a niche. And I don't care what it happens to be. Right. And, could be like, VA, could be USDA, jump, whatever it is. Right. And there's niches within niches. And so it could be 203K, construction, could be a lot of different things. But to get a niche, become an expert on it, become an expert in the guy, be the person that like is the authority on that, and then start doing videos on YouTube and blogging about it, but be very specific, meaning I help, because loan officers are like, oh, I like to work with first-time home buyers. Fantastic. You are now in the sea of sameness and you're a commodity because that's what every loan officer wants.
45% of the market.
That's everybody, right? Or you could say, I help veterans who are buying their first house in the Atlanta metro area. And that's like your videos and like how to buy a house as a veteran in Atlanta, like all of these different which is very specific.
Yeah.
And right now some loan officers are watching this be like, well, yeah, if I do that, then like, I'm giving up. What if they're not in Atlanta? What if they're in like North Georgia or what? Guys, I'm telling you, I've done this a long time. You ask anyone that's niched down, one is that successful, because some people don't, like they niche for like 30 days and they like pivot to someone else. But I'm talking like the true VA loan officers and stuff like that. They'll tell you they don't market to anybody else. They don't have other conversations, but they'll tell you, every single one of them will say that 100% of their business isn't VA.
Right.
They will get and their 100% of their business isn't in their local market. I have one loan officer right now, right, who's doing this. His calendar is booked 2.5 weeks out, meaning you can't even get an appointment with him as a lead because like he's booked out that far and he's doing deals from coast to coast. Right. So like, that's what I'm talking about. That's what you could build. And then, of course, everyone's like, oh, I want proof. I want this and that. And guys, you could do that. You could MMI to the live long day, right? You could till the cows come home. You could check out Redder. You could check out Model Match and do all of that stuff. Go ahead and do it. Right. I'll give you one person to look up right now. Jennifer Beeston. She's a former loan officer of mine. She's with Guaranteed Rate, #1 VA loan officer the last 2 years. She did over 200 million last year. She did almost 200 million the year before. 2 years that loan officers were telling me in her market, oh, there's no deals to be had. I'm waiting for rates to come back, blah, blah, blah. And she's crushing it. And she's on YouTube, right? Like she's absolutely crushing it. Now she's on like TV interviews. She's written a book, like, and I'm not saying that's what you have to be. I'm just saying that's the possibility. So you may not want 100% of that, but wouldn't maybe 10% of that be nice, or 20%? Oh, yeah. Maybe if you didn't do 200 million, that's not your purpose, but maybe 10 million is good, or 50, depending on your market, like where you're at. If you're California, that's what, one loan, but like, that's whatever it happens to be, so that's my point in saying all of this, is that that's what I'm telling not just new loan officers, but other loan officers. Yeah. But unfortunately, a lot of new loan officers are going to come in. They're going to get thrown in the deep end, no training or mentoring, even though that's like you've projected. I'm telling you, being a lifer, technically a lifer in the mortgage industry. I was born into it, but I've only been in it since 2009. But like, I'm telling you, most mortgage companies, just don't train or mentor the way that we would think it happens, and onboarding, it just isn't great. And guys, it's a two-way street, by the way. It's not just 100% on the mortgage lender. But ultimately, like, that's how you're going to make it's up to you, right? It's up to you. And the beauty of this industry, one, is in this time and day and age, there are no gatekeepers. Right, with the internet and YouTube and stuff like that. So you absolutely have no one standing in your way from doing this stuff. And two, this is the one industry where you could build an amazing life, right? I'm talking like a 6, 7, 8 figure life for yourself without a high school degree, with starting from nothing, with being nothing. right? And so like that's what I want people to understand. And so if you're a loan officer that's stuck, I'm sorry to say it's because you're choosing to be stuck.
That's right.
There's plenty of stuff out there, not just me. There's plenty of other coaches, plenty of other people. God's sakes, Dave Savage has been doing this for a decade. I mean, he's been in industry longer, but he's been putting out stuff on YouTube, which are basically playbooks that absolutely work. I can attest to them. And like, it's free. It doesn't cost you anything. And so like, so if you don't know where to go, it's because you're not asking someone. And if you're stuck, like guys, like with the internet and social media, like it's because you're choosing to be stuck. It just is, right? And a lot of people aren't going to respond well to me saying that because no one really wants to take accountability or responsibility for where they're at. But you have to accept that you are responsible for where you are in your life. And if you're stuck and you're not where you want to be, it's because you've chosen to be. And so like I told my people, I said, where you are right now was based off of where you've chosen to be. And if you don't agree with that, then great, make other choices.
Right.
And I'll help, but like make other choices to get to where you need to be.
Real talk right there. Real talk from the real CMO. You got a few more minutes, don't you?
Yeah. Let's keep rocking.
We'll run a little long today. Okay. This is good stuff. So we are in like this hyper digital world, and it's not changing. It's only gonna, get even more digital. It's to the point now when we say hyper local, and I think you said this on a conversation the other day. Hyper local is not just your, physical, where you are physically, zip code, etc. It's hyper local is, doing this, you and I showing up on a screen, recording it and sharing it with, I don't know, 100,000 people. Probably you're going to see this podcast. How, again, I go back to that beginner, that first time LO, but there's a whole lot of loan officers that are, closer to my age than, being a first time loan officer at 25, 26. Is it too late for the 50 something loan officer who's an expert on loan officering from a technical perspective, but who's not sure if they can quote unquote show up, on video, on screen, digitally? I know the answer is no, it's not too late because we're seeing this happen. But how are you coaching that cohort to kind of get unstuck and out of their own way as it relates to showing up?
Yeah. And so two things, right? And actually I forgot I do, like, it actually isn't 4, it's actually right now, but like I'll finish this question. Yeah. So one is, and I'm not going to call them out because they're a client, or it's a member I coach. And she's awesome, by the way. She's like one of my favorites. And so I'm not gonna say her name or whatever, but she's a grandmother, right? And so and she, like a year ago, she was I'm technical challenge, I can't do this, can't do that. Now it's like she's like running the roost, right? Yeah. And so it all comes down to the effort on what you want to put in, right? And when I kind of made my career, some people know the story, is like when I kind of built my brand and went all in on marketing, because that isn't what I came into this industry to do. I was on Snapchat, right? Like that's how I built my brand and connected with, real estate. And that's what's, got me speaking at conferences and stuff like that by mastering that channel. But like one of the guys I met on there was a 76-year-old real estate agent, right? And he was crushing it on Snapchat. Like he was getting, stuff, and he was all in. So age is what you make of it, right? And so like it doesn't matter whether you're older or not. There's a lot of things, guys. What I tell all loan officers is like what you've had to learn to be an effective loan officer. I'm not talking about marketing or sales, but I mean like pricing, loan structuring, programs, guidelines, how to solve like crazy problems, how to deal with like all the different like income and all that. And doing all of that is 1,000 times more freaking complicated than what I'm going to help you with when it comes to growth. And so you learn to do that. You can learn to do this. It's just that you've told yourself that you can't. You've told yourself that it's too tough. You've told yourself that it isn't for you and this and that. And so the reason why you can't is because you've told yourself you can't. I've had too many examples, too many people I've worked with that have been, 50, 60, 70, right? 70 years old and have been just fine. And so the point is that you're not too old, unless you feel and say that you're too old, right? And guys, trust me, like I'm getting up there too, and so I get it. But ultimately, it's your decision on whether you're going to do it or not. And you could use age as an excuse, but it's just that, an excuse.
That's it. I love it, man. Frazier, thank you so much for the return visit to my little pod. We'll do this again soon. I'm digging what we're collaborating on outside of this podcast, and excited for the book release and all things in the future. So thanks again for joining me. Thanks for sharing your wisdom, your expertise, your guidance, your coaching. And just thanks for being an available resource for the industry, because it is invaluable. And audience, thank you all for tuning in this week. Be sure to come back next week and like this, share this, send it to a friend, send it to an enemy. I don't care. Get someone else.
Fax it out. Do whatever you can. And next time I will promise I will learn how to read my calendar correctly.
Oh, you're good, man.
So I apologize for that, but hey, man, thanks for having me on. And Brian, I've really appreciated our friendship and the stuff that we're doing. Especially, we didn't get to talk about the stuff we're doing with our partnership with Empower and whatnot. So that's even exciting. And guys, look, this isn't, I know Brian doesn't make this to promote, his product, but there's a reason why we partner up with Brian and what he's doing. This is part of what I talk about is growth in the ecosystem and getting in front of the consumer. And that's, guys, like we can't do it anymore. You already have enough, examples out there with Rocket and Redfin, and the reason they're doing this stuff, and they're not spending money just for fun. They're doing it because it plays into the ultimate strategy. You guys can do that too. So make sure that if you aren't a client or you haven't gone through like what Brian has to offer, make sure you guys are doing that.
Appreciate you, buddy.
All right,
See you guys.
Take
Peace.
care.